Welcome back to the library, mere mortals. Tell me, have you ever collected anything? Perhaps trading cards or stickers or even postage stamps? Well, today you're about to hear a story of just how scary a collection can be. Blood spilt warmth into the collar of my shirt. I raised one tentative hand to where I thought it was coming from, as it blossomed across my chest. There was no pain. I doubt there would ever be again. I opened my mouth to say something, scream even, but no one would hear me down here. I ran as far as I could, but now I was lost. I must have ran 2 or 3 blocks through the shit and gristle, and now it had me cornered. The sewer lines in this part of the city were a maze, and not part of any water company schematic I had seen. My shift must have ended hours ago. If the foreman had tried to reach me, he'd find a dead line. No signal down here. It can't be real, but there it was, and I'd heard it before I'd seen it. It must have been stalking me for hours. My torch was doing its job, and despite the gloom I could see my assailant in frightening clarity, but little else beyond. I held out a hand, a plea, I guess. 4 fingers and a thumb splayed ghost white towards it. And then I fell. It snorted and bent. All I could do was watch its beastly head loom towards me. It grabbed my ankle, too weak to protest. Limbs numb, it began to drag me who knows where. Life didn't flash. There was no white light. Just one last absurd thought. When I was a kid, I'd collected monster stickers for a whole summer, and I'd got almost all of them. All the stickers apart from one. It was all I'd needed to complete the album, and now it had found me. Human apart from its head. Number 37A. The Minotaur. I climb the stairs of worn decor. A thin carpet is stained with years of human activity, likely never cleaned. My briefcase gets heavier as I ascend each floor. All I can think of is, he pays me well. Room 63 is where the work is. I find someone outside standing there like a bouncer. As I get closer, I recognize him. He raises a hand to stop me from entering. I'm the cleaner, I say. His eyes don't meet mine. They dart around, fighting for another excuse to deny me access. But he knows that one call to the boss and one day I'll be cleaning his hide out of a dingy hotel room, and I'd be well paid for it. He opens the door as I snap on surgical gloves. I enter, finding the usual storm of blood and urine. A man in his 40s, grey suit, red tie, is dead on the floor. Probably a debtor or crooked accountant, not paid well enough. First I open the windows. I check him over after donning white overalls and bagging my shoes. Looks like they sliced him a few times, but lacerations on his body are soaked up by his shirt. Luckily, makes my job easier. The cranial bullet is what sprays up the wall, though. It's covered a wall lamp and a picture of the Seattle skyline. I frown, shake my head and empty my case. He pays me well. Mr. Mortis is body bagged. Then comes the hydrogen peroxide sprays. It's followed by the 10-to-1 bleach concentrate and citrus ammonia overlays. Looks like I need the wallpaper scraper and baking soda for the wall. Typically, the carpet is newer wool, so I grab the sponge and baking soda, some hot water and scissors to make sure I douse the urine with white vinegar and dab detergent onto it. When I'm done, the door opens. "How long?" the flunky outside asks. 3 hours drying, but come get the body now, I reply. He squints around the clean room. How do you do this job? He asks. He pays me well, I reply. He stood up and smiled as the first chords of Here Comes the Bride played, and his soon-to-be wife appeared at the end of the church. She looked stunning in her white dress and radiant beneath her thin veil. This is what he had been waiting for, and boy, had it been worthwhile. Her father, holding onto her arm, also looked as happy as he had ever seen him. He winked as she drew close, and he saw her wink and nod in return. He briefly looked around the church and marvelled at the turnout. She had a large family, with his consisting of no one, all of whom had either died or were no longer in contact. But it was how he liked it. Things were a lot simpler that way. Then she was next to him, and his heart skipped a beat. You look beautiful, and I am a lucky man. She smiled back at him and dropped her gaze momentarily, feeling embarrassed. The wedding tune stopped and the church congregation hushed, ready for the service to begin. It was going well, and they got to the part where the rings were to be exchanged when there was a loud bang at the back of the church. Everyone turned at the interruption to see a young woman standing at the door, breathing heavily. "Stop!" she said. There were some whispers from the guests as the woman stood there, unsure as to what was going on. He knew who she was and could barely believe his eyes. "Debs," he whispered. His bride-to-be turned to him in shock. "You know her?" Unable to stop his rising panic, he ran towards her, wanting to get her out of the way. "This man is already married," Debs said accusingly. "To me." He could hear the gasps from the guests as he reached her. "I don't know who she is," he said angrily. Opening her bag, she pulled out what he saw was a photograph of his first wedding. "This proves it," she announced, as he wrapped his hands around her neck. Well, that brings us to the end of tonight's episode. Now run away, children. Run away back to your beds and get some sleep, if you can. I'll see you next time in the library, if you dare.